Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for joining His Holiness Candramauli Swami daily class. I welcome all of you. Hare Krishna, Sridevi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to you. Today, if I'm not wrong, we will be continuing on Srimad Bhagavatam, verse from Canto 1, the Thrust Quits Home, chapter 13, and continuation in that series, verse 3 and 4.
That's correct. Thank you, Vrindavanath Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, all glories to the assembled Vaishnavas, all glories to our God family. Hari Bol. Thank you for your warm welcome and your introducing the topic. Yes, we are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, verses 3 and 4. This is Dhritarashtra quits home. And it's a very significant chapter because his own brother is preaching to him the follies of continuing his long-standing attachment to his home, palaces, nephews, opulence of the kingdom, etc., and is actually teaching him the way to get liberated, to become actually situated in Bhakti Yoga. We'll see that further down the line. Sorry about this, I'm going to turn it off. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tiraye Nashta Praeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam continues as we said, and the verses go like this. Sambandhum agatam drishtva dharmaputra sahanujaha dhritarashtra yuyutsuscha sutta sharadvata pritha Gandhari Draupadi Brahman Subhadra Chotara Kripi Anyascha Janaya Pandor Nataya Sasuta Striyaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. When they saw Vidur return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthir, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjay, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas and other ladies with children, all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. Purport. Gandhari, the ideal chaste lady in the history of the world. She was the daughter of Maharaj Subala, the king of Gandhar, now Kandahar in Kabul. And in her maiden state, she worshipped Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is generally worshipped by Hindu maidens to get a good husband. Gandhari satisfied Lord Shiva, and by his benediction to obtain 100 sons, she was betrothed to Dhritarashtra despite his being blind forever. When Gandhari came to know that her would-be husband was a blind man, to follow her life companion, she decided to become voluntarily blind. So she wrapped up her eyes with many silk linens, and she was married to Dhritarashtra under the guidance of her elder brother Shakuni. She was the most beautiful girl of her time, and she was equally qualified by her womanly qualities, which endeared every member of the Kaurava court. But despite all her good qualities, she had the natural frailties of a woman, and she was envious of Kunti when the latter gave birth to a male child. Both the queens were pregnant, but Kunti first gave birth to a male child. Thus Gandhari became angry and gave a blow to her own abdomen. As a result, she gave birth to a lump of flesh only. But since she was a devotee of Vyasadeva, by the instruction of Vyasadeva, the lump was divided into 100 parts, and each part gradually developed to become a male child. Thus, her ambition to become the mother of 100 sons was fulfilled. And she began to nourish all the children according to her exalted position. When the intrigue of the battle of Kurukshetra was going on, she was not in favor of fighting with the Pandavas. Rather, she blamed Dhritarashtra, her husband, for such a fratricidal war. She desired that the state be divided into two parts, for the sons of Pandu and her own. She was very affected when all her sons died in the battle of Kurukshetra, and she wanted to curse Bhimsena and Yudhishthir, but she was checked by Vyasadeva. Her mourning over the death of Duryodhan and Dushasan before Lord Krishna was very pitiful, and Lord Krishna pacified her by transcendental messages. She was equally aggrieved on the death of Karna, and she described to Lord Krishna the lamentation of Karna's wife. She was pacified by Srila Vyasadeva when he showed her dead sons, then promoted to the heavenly kingdoms. She died along with her husband in the jungles of the Himalayas near the mouth of the Ganges. She burned in a forest fire. Maharaj Yudhishthira performed the death ceremony of his uncle and aunt. Next, Pritha, daughter of Maharaj Shurasen and sister of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna's father. Later, she was adopted by Maharaj Kunti Bhoj, and hence she is known as Kunti. She is the incarnation of the success potency of the personality of Godhead. The heavenly denizens from the upper planets used to visit the palace of King Kunti Bhoj, and Kunti was engaged for their reception. She also served the great mystic sage Durvasa, and being satisfied by her faithful service, Durvasa Muni gave her a mantra by which it was possible for her to call for any demigod she pleased. As a matter of inquisitiveness, she at once called for the sun god, who desired couplement with her, but she declined. But the sun god assured her immunity from virgin adulteration, and so she agreed to his proposal. As a result of this couplement, she became pregnant, and Karna was born by her. By the grace of the sun, she again turned into a virgin girl, but being afraid of her parents, she quitted the newly born child Karna. After that, when she actually selected her own husband, she preferred Pandu to be her husband. Maharaj Pandu later wanted to retire from family life and adopt the renounced order of life. Kunti refused to allow her husband to adopt such life, but at last Maharaj Pandu gave her permission to become a mother of sons by calling some other suitable personalities. Kunti did not accept this proposal at first, but when vivid examples were set by Pandu, she agreed. Thus, by dint of the mantra awarded by Durvasa Muni, she called for Dharmaraj, and thus Yudhishthir was born. She called for the demigod Vayu, air, and thus Bhima was born. She called for Indra, the king of heaven, and thus Arjun was born. The other two sons, namely Nakul and Sahadev, were begotten by Pandu himself in the womb of Madri. Later on, Maharaj Pandu died at an early age, for which Kunti was so aggrieved that she fainted. The two co-wives, namely Kunti and Madri, decided that Kunti should live for the maintenance of the 5 minor children, the Pandavas, and Madri should accept the sati rituals by meeting voluntary death along with her husband. This agreement was endorsed by great sages like Shata Shringa and others present on the occasion. Later on, when the Pandavas were banished from the kingdom by the intrigues of Duryodhan, Kunti followed her sons, and she equally faced all sorts of difficulties during those days. During the forest life, one demon girl, Hidimba, wanted Bhima as her husband. Bhima refused, but when the girl approached Kunti and Yudhishthir, they ordered Bhima to accept her proposal and give her a son. As a result of this combination, Ghatotkacha was born, And he fought very well with Kauravas. In their forest life, they lived with a Brahmana family that was in trouble because of one Bakasur demon. And Kunti ordered Bhim to kill the Bakasur to protect the Brahmana family against troubles created by the demon. She advised Yudhishthira to start for the Panchala Desh. Draupadi was gained in this Panchala Desh by Arjun, but by order of Kunti, all 5 of the Pandava brothers became equally the husbands of Panchali or Draupadi. She was married with 5 Pandavas in the presence of Vyasadeva. Kunti Devi never forgot her first child Karna, and after Karna's death in the battle of Kurukshetra, she lamented and admitted before her other sons that Karna was her eldest son prior to her marriage with Maharaj Pandu. Her prayers for the Lord after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Lord Krishna was going back home, are excellently explained. Later, she went to the forest with Gandhari for severe penance. She used to take meals after each 30 days. She finally sat down and performed meditation and later burned to ashes in a forest fire. I think we'll do these 2 because they're quite long, the descriptions. And if we have time, then we'll cover the others. That's Draupadi and Subhadra. So, Mother Gandhari and Kunti and Draupadi and Subhadra are considered the very chaste wives in the history of India, and they are revered as such because of their austerity, their penances, their faithfulness, their loyalty, their willingness to suffer and make sacrifices for the good of their family members, and their devotion to dharmic principles. So Gandhari, she was a very beautiful maiden, and she was the daughter of a king. She was a princess. And when her marriage was arranged with Dhritarashtra, after coming to know he is blind, she decided that being his wife, she should not have the feeling that she's superior to him because of her ability to see. So she voluntarily tied up her eyes with cloth so that she would be like a blind person herself and thus be equal to him in terms of marriage partnership. And thus she actually became very powerful by taking on that austerity. Her gaze became so powerful that later on, when Duryodhan was going into war, she told him to come in front of her naked, and she would open her blindfold and look over his entire body, and his body would become like iron. Nobody would be able to harm her son. So she thought. But Krishna, knowing what was going to happen, he was very, very, as always, very clever. When he saw Duryodhan walking naked into the ladies' chambers of his mother, he stopped him and he said, "What is this? You're going in this naked condition in front of so many ladies, especially your mother. Is this a very chaste way to be? This is a so degrading condition you're walking around in. At least cover your loins with a loin cloth." So Duryodhan, feeling chastened, immediately he took a cloth and covered his lower parts, his thighs and his hips and everything he covered, and all the rest of the clothes he had taken off already. And he came and he stood in front of Gandhari. Now Gandhari had given specific instructions, but because Krishna wanted to foil this, he told Duryodhan like this. When Gandhari opened her blindfold and she saw her son's, thighs and hips were covered, she said, "I told you to come naked. And now all other parts of your body will be like iron, but this part will be vulnerable." She told him that also. And we know in the battlefield later on, Bhima actually broke his thighs. And he had also taken a vow to break the thighs of Duryodhan for another reason, because during the Draupadi Vastraharan, he had actually dared to, push aside his dhoti, bare his thigh, and ask Draupadi to come and sit down on his thigh. He was so shameless to do that insult to the great queen of the Pandavas. And Bhima was enraged. He wanted to kill him on the spot, but he was checked by Yudhishthira. And so he took this terrible vow. He says, "One day in battle, I will kill you by breaking your thighs." And so he broke his thighs and killed Duryodhana. Anyway, that's about the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So, how did Gandhari conduct herself? She was very chaste, she was very faithful, and she worshipped Lord Shiva to get a good husband and have 100 sons. So all these predictions came true because they were benedictions of the Lord. Dhritarashtra came from a very elevated family. Pandu, Dhritarashtra, Vidur were the sons of Vichitravirya, who was the brother of Bhishma. So very elevated personalities and very exalted family lineage. So she was going to be married into this great household. So now knowing this, she became voluntarily blind. And then she was married with great pomp and ceremony. And then because of her great qualities, she became dear to everybody in the court of the Kaurava king. Because when a woman leaves her mother's home and comes to her in-laws' home, she has to prove herself. She has to win over everyone's heart. And she did that by her sweet conduct, her queenly qualities. But as Srila Prabhupada described, she also had a woman's frailties. One of the women's frailties is they get very jealous very easily. They see another woman having a nice sari and they think, oh, I don't have such a nice sari. Or they see another woman having sons and she says, oh, I have only daughters, I don't have sons. Or they see another person having more opulence, they say, oh, I don't have this opulence, they have this opulence. So all these things go on. So Prabhupada is bringing out that she had natural frailties and she became envious of Kunti. Why? Because both were queens and both were queens of two great brothers. But Kunti became pregnant. She also became pregnant. But Kunti gave birth to Yudhishthir Maharaj first. So she became very envious that my child is not yet born. So she gave a big blow to her abdomen and delivered a lump of flesh. But because the benediction of Lord Shiva was so strong and so powerful, Vyasadeva told her, now divide this lump of flesh, and actually each lump of flesh was kept in a pot, it is said. And then Vyasadeva instructed her to continue prayers, and slowly a male child was formed in each of those 100 pots, and that is how she got 100 sons. And she was very fond of her children. She showered them with love and affection, especially Duryodhan, Dushasan, Vikarma, Karna. She also had a son called Karna. Like this, there were so many children, all 100 sons, and she was extremely fond of them, very, very affectionate towards them. So, because she didn't want to lose her sons, and because she thought it was very unfair not to give the Pandavas their kingdom, she actually advised Dhritarashtra, don't do like this, don't allow them to get unfairly treated. Please make sure they also get a share and it should be equal. So let them divide the property into two. Let the sons of Pandu get half and let our sons get half. And that way we will avoid a war. Actually, the kingdom belonged fully to the Pandavas. Pandu was the real king. But because of a curse, he had to retire to the forest. He had, I don't remember that story, but he could not rule the kingdom and he died early. And so Maharaj Dhritarashtra became the emperor, but he was blind. So he was an emperor only until such time as the young sons of Pandu are not yet come of age to take over the kingdom. That means Yudhishthir, Bhim, Arjun, Nakul and Sahadev were the real kings of the kingdom. And only as a caretaker king was Dhritarashtra in place. So when they came of age, actually they were supposed to inherit the whole kingdom. But because Dhritarashtra was the king and he enjoyed the opulence of a king, his children got to enjoy the kingdom on equal terms, just like the Pandavas. So as they grew up, the Kauravas, were the princes and the Pandus were princes. They were being trained by Dronacharya. They got to enjoy all the opulences of the palace and the kingdom. So the Kauravas began thinking, why we should give up this kingdom to them? We want to continue to rule over the kingdom. We want to be the heirs to this kingdom. In fact, they should not get the kingdom at all. This is what enviousness, jealousy, ill feelings do. They cloud our consciousness and we take all wrong decisions one after the other. One wrong decision, then it leads to a chain of wrong decision which ended in their destruction. They had no right to the kingdom at all. Even so, the least that could have been done was divide the kingdom into half. And they could have kept one half and given the other half. But even that they were not willing to do. Gandhari had told that this is what should be done. And actually, the Pandavas reduced their plea, at least give 5 villages. Because as Kshatriyas, they had to rule the kingdom. That was their dharma, that was their duty. Everyone has a particular gift, a talent, a skill, and ability that they need to use. Supposing you are a trained doctor, let's say, and you're in your hospital, you're treating patients and all, and one fine day, there's some strike and they don't allow any of the doctors to practice medicine. Then what the doctor will do? Because that's the skill he has. He knows how to treat patients, he or she. And so they will be bereft of their position. They won't know what to do because they have to do something. They will go and join some other hospital because they have to continue their seva, right? So when Krishna offered, at least give them 5 villages because they have to do something. They have to rule the kingdom, but you're not giving the kingdom. So give at least 5 villages. Duryodhan was so arrogant. He said, I will not give them enough land in which to drive a pin. You know the point of a pin, how small it is. So even that much land I will not give them. So greedy and so lusty for power. And so war became inevitable. And that's how the terrible war of Kurukshetra took place, in which 64 crores, I don't know what 64 crores is. Is it same as 64 million? I think it is. Yeah, soldiers were killed. And all the sons of Gandhari, all 100 sons were killed in that battle. All 100 sons. And so she was so deeply aggrieved. She was so deeply affected and devastated. She was so angry with everyone, but especially with Krishna, because she felt he could have done something to prevent this, or he could have prevented the war, or he could have done something. And so she actually cursed Krishna. She said, just as all of my sons have been killed in this big war, similarly, I curse that all the members of your family, the Yadu dynasty, will be killed in battle. And that's how in the end, Krishna's family, Yadu family, they fought amongst themselves and they all killed themselves. Of course, this was Lord Krishna's arrangement, but Gandhari played the role of being the one to curse them like that. Yeah, so where were we? 100 sons. We were talking about 100 sons. Can we go down a little bit on the purport? Let me just see what other points are there in that Prabhu. Yeah, she was not in favor of fighting with the, yeah. And then what happened was, when her sons died, she was very upset, like I said, and she lamented tremendously. But then Lord Krishna pacified also. And then Srila Vyasadeva, he gave her the vision that don't worry, your sons are now promoted to the heavenly kingdom. Because remember, those who fight in the righteous war and give up their lives, they attain the higher realms. They go to the heavenly kingdom. That is their next destination. So when she saw that, she was pacified, she was happy. And then finally, she accompanied her husband when Dhritarashtra was advised by Vidur to give up everything and go into the forest, perform penances, perform austerities, and go into samadhi, meditate on Lord Krishna and give up his body. And when he did that, she actually followed him into the funeral pyre. Now, in those days, the women were extremely powerful. They could do that. Nowadays, we don't have so much power capacity and it's not advisable to do such things. So please don't think, oh, this is a Vedic sacrifice, so women should do all this. We don't have that capacity anymore, and we don't have the power of being so detached from our material bodies as to voluntarily enter into a fire. So that's about Gandhari. Now, who is Pritha? Pritha, she's the daughter of Maharaj Shurasen. And who is Shurasen? Is the brother of Ugrasen. So that is how she becomes the cousin of, she's cousins with Vasudev actually. She's the sister of Vasudev, who is the father of Krishna. If you remember, Vasudev is the father of Krishna and Ugrasen is the grandfather. And Ugrasen is Shurasen's brother. So she was brought up actually in the palace of Kunti Bhoj. He was friends with her father, King Shurasen. And because he had no children, King Shurasen gave his own child, daughter Kunti, as a baby to be brought up by Maharaj Kunti Bhoj. And that is how she became known as Kunti. Now here it is described, she is the incarnation of the success potency of the personality of Godhead. So what a powerful figure she is. I didn't know this. This is the very interesting knowledge. She is incarnation of the success potency of the personality of Godhead. Now see, this is very interesting. The upper planetary system, which consists of the heavenly kingdom, there was interplanetary travel. They would come down to visit Earth, and earthlings would also go and visit the heavenly planets. In fact, King Dasharath, he went and fought in the war against the demons with the demigods and received a lot of benedictions. Arjun also traveled to the kingdom of King Indra's palace in the heavenly realms. So like this, interplanetary travel was not unknown to them, and heavenly denizens would visit Earth planet. Similarly, Earth planet residents would visit the heavenly realms. So, who was taking care of these great personalities? Kunti. She was very nicely trained to perform wonderful service. And because of this exemplary services that she very faithfully carried out to Durvasa Muni, she received a great benediction from him. Now, Durvasa Muni is known for his short temper, very angry sage, very easily angered. He is actually partial incarnation of Lord Shiva also. So, she was extremely careful when carrying out her seva to him. She was very, very careful in doing everything so nicely that Durvasa Muni became very pleased with her and gave her a mantra by which she could call any demigod that she desired. Now, she was a very young girl, just about 14, 15 years old, maybe barely 16 years old, very, very young. And so after the Muni left, she was gazing out of her window and looking at the sun god. And she was just thinking, I wonder if this mantra really works. Let me see what happens by invoking this mantra. And so she called the sun god, and the sun god came into her room. And he said, yes, now I have to give you a child, because that's the power of this mantra. She got very frightened. No, 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 I'm not married. I cannot have a child. It is going to be a great scandal and this and that. So sun god said, what can I do? I am bound by the mantra to give you a child. So don't worry, I will give you a child, but your virginity will be intact. And so that's how it happened that she became pregnant with Karna, gave birth to a baby. And because she was so afraid of what she had done, she put the baby in a basket and sent him floating downstream. And the baby was found by a charioteer and his wife, who were childless. And they raised Karna. And therefore his parentage was unknown. Nobody knew, but actually he was the son of the sun god. Very, very powerful. He was actually born with Kavach, Kundal, everything, the armor of the sun god, who had blessed his son with all these things. Then after that, she was later on, after she matured, she was married to King Pandu, who was one of the brothers like we talked about. And Pandu being a highly illustrious warrior king, and they were engaged and then they were married. But King Pandu, because of some misdemeanor, he had a curse that if he engages in sexual behavior with any woman, he will die immediately. I think when he was out hunting, he shot at some birds that were coupling, and they actually were sages, if I'm not mistaken. And so while dying, they cursed the king that if you engage in sexual conduct, you will die. So he knew that. And so he avoided, very successfully, he avoided impregnating both his wives, Kunti, but he couldn't resist at one point with Madri. And that is how he died. He actually died because of that. So he knew that. And so what he told Kunti was, since you have this power of this mantra, you please give me sons by calling upon the demigods to give you these sons. So at first she was reluctant because she didn't want to do that. But knowing that the curse will finish his life if she tries to get pregnant by him, she agreed to save his life and give him sons. And that is how Yudhishthir, born of Dharmaraj, then Bhimasena, born of Vayu, and then Arjun, born of Indra, were born. And Nakul and Sahadev are the sons of the other queen, Madri. Now, because of his engaging in sexual behavior with his wives, he died. And in those days, like we said before, the practice was that the woman, the wife, would voluntarily produce actually fire from her own body and enter also into the flames of the funeral pyre and give up her material body, because everyone knew that the Atma is eternal. So they were not so attached to their bodies. They were willing to sacrifice their bodies because they just felt it's just a dress, it's just a covering. We are so attached to our bodies, but they were not like that. They were very elevated in knowledge. They understood what is what. And so for them, body didn't really matter. And so they were able to perform that austerity and enter into fire. So it was decided that because the 5 children were so young, somebody has to stay back to take care of them. So it was agreed that Kunti will stay back and take care of the sons. And she suffered enormously along with her children from all the atrocities, all the injustices that were done to her sons. She suffered with them, and she went along with them into the forest also when they were exiled, because she could not bear separation from her children. She wanted to be with them. Now, Kunti is a very powerful lady. She's also very, very devoted to Lord Krishna. She's a pure devotee. So she offered very beautiful prayers, which are there in the first canto, 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very beautiful prayers of Queen Kunti. In fact, Srila Prabhupada writes a whole book on prayers of Queen Kunti by giving series of lectures, which have been made into a book called Teachings of Queen Kunti. It's very beautiful prayers are there in that. So then, when the Kurukshetra war happened, she was greatly aggrieved when she came to know her son Karna is going to kill her son Arjun, because Karna had taken a vow that he's going to kill Arjun. So she actually went to Karna and revealed who he really is, saying that you are actually the brother of the Pandavas. I had you when I was a virgin, when I was unmarried, and then I had no choice but to. So Karna says, when I was a baby, you abandoned me. And now you're coming to ask that I should spare your son's life. So then he said, all right. Actually, he had taken a vow to finish all the Pandavas. He said, all right, I will spare all your sons, but Arjun is the one I will kill, only one son. So that way you will still have 5 sons. You will have me and the other 4. Like this, he makes a way out of that. So she has to agree to that. But of course, we know in the end that Karna is killed and not Arjun, because Krishna protects his devotees. So Kunti led a very difficult and a very pitiable life in spite of being a queen. But what did she pray? Let the calamities come again and again, my Lord, because by seeing those calamities, we see your lotus feet. And when we see you, we do not enter into the cycle of birth and death. We get free from that. So this was how wonderfully elevated she was when facing all the difficulties. Generally, what happens to us when difficulties come, we start moaning and weeping and crying and say, woe is me. see what is happening to me. Why did Krishna do this to me? Oh my gosh, why this terrible suffering has come? If only I could just carry on happily. But now see what has happened. No. She actually accepted everything as a means to become more Krishna conscious. And all these are lessons for us, actually. Okay, can we go a little further down, please? Yeah, during the forest life, so many things happened. But Kunti Mata was always there with her sons. And actually, the story goes when Arjun came back with his wife Draupadi after winning her in the Swayamvar, Kunti was facing the altar saying her evening prayers. And so, when Arjun entered the door with Draupadi, he announced to his mother, "Mother, see what I have brought today." And Kunti, without turning around, she said, "Whatever it is, divide it equally among your brothers." And so that's how Panchali, as Draupadi was known, became the wife of 5 husbands. But actually, this was a benediction given to her because in her previous life, she had actually prayed to Lord Shiva. And she performed such severe austerities and tapasya that Lord Shiva came before her and yes, okay, what do you want? And she was so desperate by that time because she had not been getting married. She had been the only child of her sage father, and her father had died, and she was all alone. And she was not getting married. And she, in great frustration, she said, "Give me a husband, give me a husband, give me a husband, give me a husband, give me a husband." Like this, she said 5 times, "Give me a husband." And so Lord Shiva said, "Tathastu." And that is how she ended up having 5 husbands. So we will end over there, which was quite a long purport and a long explanation. We'll do the other 2 later on. Otherwise, we won't have time for our discussion. And we can now open up for questions, comments, corrections, criticisms.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for nice class. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. If you have any questions, comments, realization, please unmute yourself. If you can also switch on your video, that will be really great. Or if you have any questions which you would like to type in chat window, that's also fine. I can read on your behalf.
So we have just Balaji Prabhu, we have Braj Vilasini, and we have Scarlet Mataji, besides you and me on the call. So I
Yes,
guess
Mataji.
everybody has been very busy today.
So, yeah, okay, Braj Vilasini Mataji. Yeah, okay, please go ahead.
You're on
Mataji,
mute,
you're on
my
mute.
dear Braj Vilasini.
Sorry, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes.
Okay. So I just joined a little late, but when you were saying that about Kunti Maharani, and you said that Kunti Mara is a personality of something, you said, that I could not get that point. You said
Tapasya. I said she performed great
Oh.
tapasya, great austerities. She suffered along with her sons through all the trials and tribulations. They were in the house of shellac and it was burned down, And Vidur actually gave them the hint that this palace is going to be burned down. So he told them, just like ants make a hole into the ground and go deep underground and escape. Some hint he gave like that. So Yudhishthir Maharaj understood what was going to happen and he made an arrangement for a secret tunnel to be made underground for that so that it was a ready escape for when the Kauravas are going to set fire to the whole palace. So that night when those miscreants came and doused it with whatever, gasoline, kerosene, I don't know what they had in those days and set it on fire. By the time the Pandavas had safely escaped by going underground and coming out into the forest far away. So they did not perish in the flames because Vidur had warned them and they had taken precautions to save their life. So like this, just imagine mother of sons to watch your sons going through all these attacks on their lives and the intrigues and the injustices and the dice, that they played, which was rigged actually, because Shakini had this power that by rolling the dice in such a way, he could make those numbers come as he wanted. So it was not a fair fight, because Shakuni was using that power to defeat Yudhishthir Maharaj every time. So all those things she had to witness, the insults, the humiliation, the attacks on them. But she went through all of that, firmly convinced that Krishna will protect them. That is her greatness. She never lamented and said, oh, poor me, look at my son, look at what's happening. They're so worthy, they're so great, and see how they're being harassed, because the Pandavas were tortured from childhood. From childhood, the Kauravas were always harassing them. They once poisoned Bhima, even as children. Do you know that story? And threw him in the river. Because they knew he was very fond of sweets, they made a huge plate of laddus laced with very deadly poison. And when Bhimsena came across that while playing, he devoured all of them, became unconscious, and he fell into the river nearby. But what happened was, interestingly, of course, Krishna is always there to protect his devotees. The poison which afflicted him was counteracted by the poison which happened when the snakes in the water bit him. And so he came back to consciousness and swam up to the surface of the river, and he was alive. So like this, they tried so many things to kill the Pandavas, And poor Mother Kunti, being a widow, had to suffer through all of these trials and tribulations.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Great lessons for us to learn, of taking shelter of Krishna. Even in the most difficult situations, she simply took shelter of Krishna.
Because I was hearing yesterday the lecture about the Purushottam Mass, and they, like in mentioned, they were saying like Draupadi was in a previous life, she did the tapasya and asked for the boon from the sea. I need a husband, I need a husband, and I need a husband, right? 5 times, and she got the boon from that Sriji. But then I also heard that because she was insulted by Dusasan, thing. So why she was insulted by the Dusasan? Because of that previous life, she did not glorify the Purushottam Mass.
We've lost you, Braja. We can't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So because I was saying that she was insulted by the Dusasan, and she was asking that Krishna, so why I have to go through like this? Why I was insulted by the Dusasan? And the Krishna says that because in this previous life you did not glorify the Purushottam Mass, that Adhik Mass. Because of that you got insulted by the Dusasan, but you took the shelter of me this life. That's why I protected you. So that was another thing. I just heard it yesterday in the lecture.
So I got that part where you said because she did not honor Purushottam Mass in her previous life, this life she had to suffer. But then what is that Krishna said? But in this
life you took a shelter of me.
Oh.
So Draupadi took the shelter of Krishna. That's why I protect you.
Haribol. Wow.
Because anyway, because that in previous life even she insulted the Purushottam, and Purushottam is like Krishna himself, right? Because Krishna gave the name to the Purushottam, because that's right. And even that you insulted me that time, but I still protect you because of the shelter of me. So Krishna is so merciful that if you can take a shelter of him, he can protect you from anything,
Haribol. Jai Shri Krishna Bhagwan. Very nice. Nice point. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Raja Vilasini, when are you going to give class?
No, Mataji. I'm still no, Mataji. I'm still preparing. I not in English. I'm just gonna do for the Gujarati. So I'm trying it. I'm just gonna prepare myself first. I'm not still comfortable right now at this point, so I have to get started first.
If you can do Gujarati class, you can do English class. No worries.
No, so let's.
You're so enthusiastic. You know so much. You should share
No,
it with others.
I have to learn so much things, Mataji. I have to learn so much things. I'm just a baby step right now, just taking a one step.
Me too.
You are the all
I'm also
that.
taking baby steps.
You are on the top, so we have to.
I'm just doing this as a service to Gurudev because he wants somebody to do the service, but he wants all of us to do the service.
But you're doing so nicely, Mataji. Yeah. I'm still, I don't know why, but I'm still scared and afraid. I'm not like feeling comfortable. So I don't know. So I'm trying it.
One day we will hear Brajavilasini giving class.
Oh, so pray for me, Mataji.
Sure, always. I always pray for my God family. And every altar I go here in Mayapur, every altar, Lord Nashikadev, Panchatattva, Radha Madhav, I always pray for my God family. I pray to the Lordships. Whatever obstacles are there, my dear Lord, please remove the obstacles so that everyone becomes very joyful, blissful, happily situated in pure devotional service to you.
Yeah. I see again, Mataji. Thank you for praying, and I see again.
We all need each other's prayers. You pray for me too.
Yes. Yes, Mataji. And this is a personal question. Can I ask you, can we meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock?
Yes, yes, we can meet tomorrow after the class, right?
I mean, yeah. So 9 o'clock at Chicago time, and for you it's gonna be 7:30, or
I don't know. I'll check. I'll check the time.
Yeah.
Can we meet
Okay,
right after the class? Will that be okay?
that's 7 o'clock. After 7 o'clock, I'm to the Mangla at the 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Okay, we can meet in the night. Yeah, usual time.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. See you.
Okay, very good.
Hare Krishna.
Just send me a text to remind me, okay?
Yeah, sure, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brajbalasni Mataji, for nice question, nice discussion.
Thank
And
you.
also to bring Purushottam month, because absolutely, I think we all should remember that how Pandava and Draupadi went through all these challenges because they did not honor Purushottam month in their previous life. And this is a good warning, and not warning, but a good opportunity as a devotee, that
Yes.
we perform Purushottam month nicely, not nicely, very nicely, maybe not very nicely, very in full enthusiasm, and to please Gurudev, and also to please, of course, Radha Krishna. So thank you, Brajbalasni Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So while anybody else ask Sridevi Mataji any question, I think these two questions I still have not very good answers for this. One that yes, for Pandavas and Draupadi, we all got this point that they did not honor Purushottam month in their previous life, and that's why Draupadi got the curse from Durvasa, and also Pandava got that. And they performed Purushottam month nicely, and then Krishna said that now your all sins will be removed. But why Draupadi? Is there any related pastime? Why she had to go through all such painful life and challenges? Is there any?
Yeah, in the previous life, she was actually a maiden who was motherless. She was the daughter of a great sage. And unfortunately, the sage passed away without situating her nicely in marriage with someone. So she was all alone, unprotected. And the story goes that she performed tapasya. And to Durvasa Muni, or Lord Shiva, I don't remember the details, but she did perform tapasya.
Can I say something, Mataji?
Yeah, please tell. If you know the pastime, please tell us.
I just heard it yesterday. That's why it just repeats in my mind. So in the previous life, she was the daughter of Meghavi Rushi, Meghavi.
That was for Draupadi. Sorry, I was asking for Kunti Maharani.
Oh, About her previous life?
Yeah. That was for Draupadi. That
Yes,
Draupadi Mata.
Draupadi. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No, I don't know anything about Kunti's previous life. I have not read anything, so I have no knowledge of that, unfortunately.
No problem, Mataji. Yeah, even I also have not got. Just like getting a bit curious why all these.
But it would be nice to hear about Draupadi, Brajavilasini. We would like to hear. Please do tell us about that.
Oh, everyone must be know this story. So I just heard it yesterday. There was like in a previous life, Draupadi was the daughter of Meghavi, and she did not have no mother. Mother died was in early age, and she her father was so busy with doing other things that she did not paying attention to her daughter. Uh, uh, I don't know what's her name that life, but so he was not like paying attention, and she was getting old, and she was not getting married. All of her friends got married and everyone, so she was got frustrated, and somehow there's uh, her father was also passed away, and so that time the Durvasa Muni came to see her. Okay, my friend, because Durvasa Muni was a friend of the Meghavi Rusi, so he came to see her. Okay, to see her, and she was and then she the Mega I mean Durvasa Rusi was giving her little, what do you call it, to testify to her, and then she was asking that what supposed to I do to like where I'm going through like this and that. That the Durvasa Muni recommended that you push to the Purushottam Mass, you have to perform this tapasya, the austerity on the Purushottam Mass, and she was like, oh, Purushottam Mass, no, and then she was thinking in her mind that Purushottam Mass, that's the Mal Mass. How can you get benefit of that doing that Purushottam Mass and this and that? So she was insulted that Purushottam Mass, did not honor that Purushottam Mass. And then her body was got destroyed after that, and she was like frustrated. And then she said, "Oh, I insult that Purushottam Mass. Now I have to do the tapasya." And then she did the tapasya for the sleep for the 9,000 years. She did the tapasya for the 9,000 years, and then she came in front of her, and then he asked for asked for some bone, and then she said she was frustrated. That's why she said, "I need a husband. I need a husband." And then she said 5 times. That's why she says, "Okay, you will get the husband." And then she realized that, oh my God, five husband for this life, I cannot be having this 5 husband. And she said, "Take this boon back, CG." And CG said, "No, I cannot take this boon back. But you're not gonna get five husband on this life, but next life you're gonna get 5 husband." And that's why next life she got married with this 5 Pandavas. That's what I heard.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So we just have a couple of minutes left. Anyone else?
Thank you very much for today's class.
Thank you.
So one thing I feel, Sridevi Mataji and Brajvilasni Mataji, that whatever curse are given by great sages, there is always blessing in disguise. There is always some blessing. So as Brajvilasni Mataji mentioned that Durvasa Muni, even being a great friend of Draupadi father, like Maitri Rishi, still he gave that curse to Draupadi Mataji in her previous life. But she cursed, like he cursed that, okay, you get old. And she was having this like one, I like remember that she was very much attached to her beauty. Like, I'm very beautiful girl, and that's why she was like looking for that, and that's why Durvasa Muni cursed her that you like lose your beauty and become old. And she was very worried and concerned that, okay, oh, what will happen? How anybody will marry me now? And then she got that because she prayed to Durvasa Muni also that, okay, this is a very big curse. I cannot live like this. And then he gave that, okay, in your next life, you will get blessings of Krishna. You will perform it. So this is like any boon like any curse I feel like given by great sages, even looks very harsh in the short term, but there is always some blessings behind that. So,
Very nice.
okay,
Yeah,
Mataji.
whatever we can do in a small, humble way to glorify this month. It can be the smallest thing, but something that we take a vow and do it for the entire month. It can be as simple as I will offer a ghee lamp every day to my Lord at home. You know, it can be I will sing one particular bhajan glorifying Jugal Kishore, or I will chant some extra rounds, or I will go and offer some service, you know, somewhere or even from home. Whatever it is, whatever you decide, making that promise that for one whole month I will do that, and doing it gives great spiritual benefits. In fact, one must do something to honor this month, because if one doesn't, then one will get cursed. Wow, that is heavy. We don't want to get cursed.
And we don't have patience like others have got, and tolerance.
Right. So true.
Okay, Mataji, so it's like there is no any further questions. We are already 1 minute over our time. With your
Okay.
permission, if it's okay, we can close
Sure.
this.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. So grateful to you, Vrindavan Nath Prabhu, for very nicely hosting, and so grateful for all of you coming on the call and offering your contributions. I'm so delighted to have you all here. Thank you so much. My humble
Thank you,
obeisance.
Sridevi Mataji, for your like nice class always. It's always like some good nectarian words coming, some good messages coming for all of us. So like good takeaway from every class. And I think that's one important thing we all should focus on, that what is at least one key takeaway for us individually at personal level, which we can take. So that's always there in your class. So thank you very, very much for showering your blessings and that mercy of you. Like hearing from Vaishnava is very, very important, and that too in this Purushottam month. So thank you very much. And
I am simply passing on whatever I have learned from Srila Prabhupada, from Gurudev. So I have no personal credit in this matter. It is all Gurudev's mercy. It's all Prabhupada's mercy, really.
thank you, Mataji. Thank you. And thank you all, everyone, all the devotees for joining this. Without your presence, this session will be incomplete. So you all play a really important role. Thank you very much for sparing your time and listening this Krishna Katha. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai, Great Sridevi Mataji ki jai. Kalpatarubhyascha Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai.
Yeah, thank you.